What's going on, everybody? This is Drew and JC, and we have another Comedy Watchers episode brought to you on the Watchers Digital Network. If you take a look at the top right portion of your screen, you'll see a badass new logo I just did 5 seconds ago. It took about that long to make, too. But we're going to go ahead and hit the intro, and then we'll start talking to our guest. Or not.
No? Cool.
It's objectively
my favorite sound.
Objectively terrible intro, but we'll go ahead and we'll let our guest introduce himself.
What's up, guys? I'm Lyle, Elliott. Nice to meet you too. And I've been doing comedy for 2 years, man. I think it's the most passionate thing I've ever been about in life up to this point. I did music for like 6-7 years too, but comedy is it, man.
Yeah, we always like to talk about music too. What kind of music did you make?
I was in a hip hop group called the Kentucky Villains. We toured a little bit up and down the East Coast. Biggest band we opened for was Cypress Hill.
Oh, okay.
And then a lot of people under that. And it was a lot of fun, man. It was some of the most fun times I've had in my life. I guess it was the most fun except for traveling through Asia.
I've actually heard of the Kentucky Villains before, and I had no idea that you were a part of that.
Really? That's crazy. Yes. Yeah, we're on Spotify and iTunes and everything, man. But we just aged out of it.
It's dead now. It's done.
Yeah. Good while it lasted.
No, that's cool though. Touring with or opening for Cypress, that's probably a trip.
Oh, that was madness, dude. We got to smoke with him on the tour bus afterwards. I was so paranoid. I kept asking them, if y'all want me to leave, I'll leave. You know what I mean? They was like, nah, just hit the blunt. They have me higher than hell, bro. It's good night. Good night.
It's like a self-esteem thing. Like you weren't cool enough to hang out with Cypress Hill.
I just got I got paranoid and self-conscious, man. I'd probably been in there 3 minutes and I thought I was bugging them.
I can relate to that. Like,
yeah, that was. I mean, we was getting brown weed at that time, dude, and here they come with this Cali weed. You know, it's just, yeah, it's a different high.
Yeah, I've been lost in some of those myself a couple of times.
You can get there.
Life altering, you know, like
yeah.
My first anxiety attack came from like incredible foreign weed. And
oh yeah,
I've had 15 years of anxiety ever since.
Yeah, yeah. But the first time I smoked, I had a fake heart attack, dude, at my uncle's house. Like I thought my heart was like beating with the music, and I was like, my heart's beating funny. And I looked at one of my cousins. I said, hey man, feel my chest. I feel like my heart's beating funny. And he felt my chest. And I don't know if he's just messing with me, or if he was so high that he felt like it too. And he was like, yeah, man, his heart's beating out of his chest, y'all. He's going to die. So it freaked me out. And I jumped up and I was like, I got him to call my dad and everything. I tried to get him to call an ambulance. And they called my dad.
Right.
Yeah, and he came and got me, looked in my eyes. And he said, what have you been doing tonight? I said, nothing. He said, tell me what you did. I said, I smoked some weed. He said, go drink some milk and go to fucking bed. So, yeah, milk cures everything in the South, bro.
Oh man, so that's a Southern thing, not like an actual weed thing that I like a secret I didn't know about.
Nah, they just give you it's just milk, bro. You could have Down syndrome. They'll say, give him some milk. He'll be okay. He'll walk it off.
That's really similar. Well, not at all. That's with the heart beating thing. It's real similar to the experience that I had that you created a lifetime of anxiety.
Yeah, yeah, I've had anxiety my whole life too.
Yeah, well, until I was 21, I never had anxiety. And then I got this garbage weed, and I went over to my dad's place, and he was gone for the day. And I was like, I'm gonna fucking just smoke, dude. I'm just smoking all day. So my dad has this he had this huge pipe. It was like this big, and it was like glass, and like looked like it was from like a Native American style, and like a peace pipe kind of thing. And I smoked out of it, and I was like, "Oh, this weed was garbage. I should have known them to get it from Katanning of all places, up in Pennsylvania." And I was like, my dad smokes. I'll just take a hit out of his bowl, right? And I hit this thing, and as soon as I inhale it, I was in a different world. Like I could tell, like, it tasted different. Everything about it was different. My heart was just thump, 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 thump. I was on crutches. I had a broken ankle at the time, and I like raced. I started racing
Yeah.
back and forth. I've always been under the impression I accidentally did meth. Like, my dad was I mean, he was a partier, so who actually knows what that was? But I'm like crutching back and forth in his apartment, and I run down to the bar next to him where like I don't have shoes on or anything, and there's just this bar, and I just like crutch in, and I ask if I could use the phone, and I call my cousin, and I tell him to come pick me up, and he was annoyed because he thought I was calling him to come smoke, but instead I'm on like right off the highway doing circles like this with crutches, and yeah, he came and he picked me up and told me I smelled like shit, and he went and bought me hot dogs, and it eventually like wore down, but yeah, I've had pretty severe anxiety ever since.
I think me and you might have had the unfortunate luck to have smoked like Roundup or something. Is what's happened. It's a bad day.
Yeah, it was rough. It changed my life, unfortunately, for the worst.
Do you still smoke?
Not often.
Still, I smoke a lot still.
It's like it's left. It has like these leftover effects. Anytime I've ever tried, I get that same like weird anxiety heartbeat thing going. So
yeah, you can.
I just I've accepted defeat. You know, whatever enjoyment I used to get out of that's been ruined by crippling anxiety.
Yeah, I can understand it. If it don't treat you right, it still gives me anxiety like that sometimes too. But whatever, man. I broke my back a while back, and it's the best pain medication for pains like that, like broken bones.
Yeah, I wish I had known that. I had neck surgery last year, and I was laid up for a while. Actually, when we started this podcast, you know, we spent the first 6 weeks of the podcast with me in a neck brace.
Yeah,
I always like threw like a hood on and tried to hide it and conceal it and everything, but it looked terrible and stupid.
Yeah, I did the same thing not the same thing, but when I broke my back, I did Twitch streaming. The whole recovery, like the 2-3 years recovery. I built up a nice little crowd of people that watch me, man. I made like $800 one month off of it, something like that. But just, you know, like I got better, so I started doing comedy. That's when I started comedy.
Oh, cool. Well, like, have you always kind of wanted to do it, or how did you just end up, you know, being a comedian? You know, you're 2 years in.
I'm mostly a listener when I'm in big groups, if that makes sense. Like I listen to what everybody else is saying. But by doing that, I've also become like a storyteller. Like I would pick up situations, try to get myself into situations, and I would tell those stories in those social gatherings. And they were always funny. And I think that's what led to it. And even when I was doing music, like between songs, I would just naturally like tell a joke here and there just to keep the crowd going and laughing and stuff like that. And I don't know, man. After, like, I guess music made me fall in love with the stage, but nothing's made me as passionate about it as doing comedy. Like, it's a whole different thing.
Yeah, that's what, you know, everybody kind of has that same mentality. Like, once you're up there, you're like, you either bomb and die and give up, or that's just kind of what you do from then on.
Yeah, you just can't quit.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, I'm obsessed with it. I think about it when I'm taking a poop. I think about it when I'm driving somewhere. Like, I'm always writing now, and I'm always like keeping my thoughts down on paper. And it completely took me over pretty much, man. Like I've been in it like 2 years, and I've done, I don't know the amount, but probably 150 to 200 mics in those 2 years. So I've been burning it up like performing too.
Yeah, that's impressive.
Yeah.
I don't know. We look about the same age, so like, who did you grow up listening to? Like, who's your
Tupac, Nas, Biggie, Wu-Tang, even like 3 6 Mafia for down south, 8 Ball, MJG, Cash Money, No Limit, like all that era there. And I listen to a lot of rock and stuff too, though. I listen to Nirvana, I listen to Metallica, I listen to Green Day. Like I like all different types. The only type of music I really don't enjoy a lot is country, and it's just a vibe thing. I respect a lot of them for lyrics, but like vibe wise, I don't like riding around to it. So
no, I'm on that exact same wavelength with you. Country, just for whatever reason, it just drives a nail into my brain, and it isn't any single, like, I couldn't pinpoint a single thing about it. It's just, I don't know if it's like the twang or the twinge or whatever the terminology is for that. Like, when the guitar riff is like, it's just like, oh man, I hate it.
Yeah.
Yeah, get a whammy bar or something if you're gonna.
Yeah, something. Like I like some of it though. There's like I would consider like Johnny Cash country, and I love Cash. I even like Garth Brooks to a certain extent. I think Garth Brooks is a great artist.
I'll give you Garth Brooks. Garth Brooks was one of my like first 7 CDs.
Yeah,
So,
it's crazy how good of a music artist he is. And there's other ones in there too, like Tim McGraw and stuff like that. They're amazing artists. It's hard not to like at least some of their songs. But I'm the same way. It's a vibe thing, man. It's just not my vibe to ride around listening to country. It just don't.
Yeah, I don't know. If there was like a horror version, like if there was a misfits of country,
horrorcore country.
Yeah, that would be something I think I could throw onto my beats and get into, wrap my head around. But I just have never heard anything like that.
The necro of country.
Yeah, but what comedians did you like growing up?
I watched Richard Pryor on the Sunset Strip at like 9 years old. My grandmother let me watch it, and all-time favorite comedian, probably because I watched him first. And I like comedy from there. I started watching stand-up specials from there, and I liked Eddie Murphy is probably the second one I seen in his red suit, raw.
Yeah.
And then I just went from there, man. I like Bill Burr now. Patrice O'Neal, even though he's dead, was a great. Chris Rock. Yeah, just seen Chappelle like in the last 8 months. So yeah, the good ones. Yeah, I seen him here at Rupp in Lexington.
Did you get pumped for him?
It was good, and I thoroughly enjoyed the show, and it was funny as hell. But being in an arena and watching it is not as good as watching it in a comedy club, man. It just not. Yeah. It's a different experience.
Yeah,
different experience. People besides you'll laugh over the jokes and stuff too, and it's horrible because it's so many people. Like if it was a few, you could kind of still hear, but you couldn't even hear some of his jokes and stuff. And it just being so far away. We was in I got free tickets from a radio station that I do guest sets on sometimes, so it was like all the way up in the upper arena. It wasn't as good, but it was a great show for what it was. But I probably won't never go to another arena act.
Yeah, I've never been to an act at an arena. I think the biggest one I've been to is theaters.
Yeah, I wouldn't suggest it. I'd say theater and down, or just don't go, because you're not going to enjoy it as much unless that's just the only way you can get to see that person. I wouldn't do it.
Yeah, not many people are lucky right now to see, like, I don't know, who's real hot right now. I'm blanking.
In what, comedy?
Yeah.
Ooh, Shane Gillis is huge.
Oh yeah, Gillis is like selling out Madison Square Garden every other week. So that's kind of the only way to see him.
Yeah, Gillis is so good, like so good.
Did you happen to see his new Netflix show?
The newest one I haven't. I don't watch a lot of comedy since I've been doing it, man. I do try to get back to the great ones, but I haven't watched Joe Rogan's new one either. I've heard bad stuff about it, but
no, I haven't watched that. Gillis has a sitcom, and it's on Netflix. It's called Tires, and it's set in Pennsylvania. That's where we're from.
Yeah,
and it is like the most trash accurate interpretation of Pennsylvania that I have ever seen. It kind of blew my mind. Like, I don't understand how anybody outside of Pennsylvania could watch that show and actually enjoy it, just because of how Pennsylvania it is.
Yeah,
but being from
inside ball.
Yeah, being from PA, like, it hit me in ways that I didn't even think that it was possible. But yeah, man, that's a really good show from Gillis.
Yeah, I did. I've done one. I hit a show in Philly last December, a place called Fat Lady Brewing. I did a week in New York in December, and on the way up, I just got another gig in Philly since I was staying there.
Yeah, I'm not too familiar with Philly. I'm from the other side. I'm closer to Pittsburgh. I grew up right outside of Pittsburgh. But the one time I was in Philly, I went to see Metallica play at the Eagles Stadium. And Metallica was amazing, but everything that happened before and after the concert like equates to the worst night of my life. and I accidentally smoked meth once. So that says a lot about my time in Philadelphia. So
I did my first joke on Pennsylvania because I'd never been through it until that point, and I told them that I didn't know that once you left West Virginia, that it just stayed West Virginia until you got to Philadelphia. Like, I had no clue of that, man. I was surprised by that fact.
Yeah,
I was like, damn, this is a lot of country, bro.
You're from Kentucky, right?
Yeah, I'm from southeastern Kentucky. It's real country.
That's what everybody always says about Pennsylvania. It's Philadelphia and Pittsburgh and Kentucky in between.
Mm-hmm.
Is kind of the thing that I've always heard. You know,
just rural and woods, man. It surprised me. I expected it to be more city. You know, I didn't expect it all to be city. Every state's mostly rural and a few cities, but nah, man, it was rural the whole way to Philly.
Yeah, it's mountain ranges, very windy roads that are just turn after turn after turn, and that's literally about it. We're just like up on the ass end of the Appalachian Mountains, and there's not really a whole lot going on. We have we used to have a steel industry, and there's a Bell in Philadelphia that people like to visit, but that's it.
About it. That's about it. Come see the Rocky statue.
Yeah. That might have a little more traffic than the Bell at this point.
It could, man. It could. People are getting dumber and dumber, dude. You could put a Burger King statue up, and you'd probably get more than that.
I would do it. I would visit the Burger King statue for sure.
Come see the King in Philly. The King. I like it though. It's a pretty state, man. It is a pretty state. It just surprised me. I just didn't know it was that woods, man. Like it reminds me a whole lot of where I'm from. I didn't get to go in the mountains though. I'm sure the mountains would remind me more so. Like my nearest neighbors where I was born at was like 2 miles away. Like I played with trees until my brother was born at 6. So happy to see another baby. Somebody to play with.
Yeah, I'm in the mountains in PA. It sucks.
Yeah.
There's nothing to do. It's
beautiful. But yeah, man, there's no jobs, there's no I don't know, man. It's a lonelier existence down there. And plus now at my age, if I go down there, it's like all meth heads. I don't know what your area is like, man. But anybody my age or younger, dude, is going off of something.
Yeah, well, I had the local drug dealer up the street for me, and I pushed his buttons a little too hard one time. He had his dog taking a dump in my yard. And I just screamed that if that poop wasn't picked up, I was going to rub his nose in it. And the next day, we woke up to go to work, and I start backing up, and my back 2 tires are flat. And my wife is backing up, and her back 2 tires are flat. And this piece of garbage that never was up before 2 o'clock in the afternoon any other day of the week was sitting there on his porch, just watching his handiwork as he slashed all 4 of those tires. And oh man, yeah, I still don't hear the end of that. My wife tells me that I'm always starting fights, but I made a promise. I'm gonna rub his nose in dog shit. It's just a matter of time.
Just one of these days, just catch him slipping.
Yeah. The problem is the woman he was shacked up with kicked him out a while ago, so I don't know where to find him. But I'm like an elephant. I don't forget, and I hold a grudge better than anybody on this planet. I will rub his nose in dog shit. I promise you.
That's wild.
So I guess
man.
So part of like traveling and being a comedian and that is like being out of your element. And we talked about like all these different places we've been. Where have you felt the most out of your element?
Like in the world or doing comedy?
Well, fair. Comedy.
I don't feel. I've had to do shows in front of some, ended up in front of some crowds that was all like older gray-haired ladies and men, and I was real out of my element there because I had to on the fly edit myself live on stage because I'm a dirtier, looter comedian most of the time. And that's probably the most out of my element I've been in comedy. I would imagine. I've got better at that now, though. Now if I get a room full of gray-haired women. I've got 15 or 20 minutes for them clean. They're not going to look at me like I'm an alien on stage jacking off in front of them for the first time. Like, what the hell's going on? What did he just say about giners? What's that mean, Ed? Just way out of my element there. I think in the world, though, I've traveled Asia, and there's some rural spots over there, man, where it's just like, it's a little culture shocky to see how people live elsewhere.
What parts of Asia did you travel in?
All over. I've been in
Thailand, Cambodia,
Tokyo, Philippines, Thailand, Cambodia, Laos, Vietnam. Everywhere but China, pretty much.
Well, what's comedy like in front of those crowds?
I didn't do comedy over there. I was just traveling.
Just traveling.
Yeah, it's before I got into comedy. After I hurt myself, I kind of had that. I don't know, man. I felt like I could have died. You know what I mean? I could have broke my back, and I could not been walking anymore or anything like that. And I hadn't been out of the country, so I looked up the cheapest places to go travel for a while, and it was either South America or Asia. And Asia has a little bit better infrastructure than South America, so I decided to go there.
Yeah, and I mean, as long as you don't piss off the Yakuza, like, you should be good to go. It's not like you go to South America and you're at the whims of 1,000 different drug cartels.
That's true. That's true.
That's true. That's something that I think that would frighten me enough to stay out of South America. Although I heard parts of Colombia are super opposite of that, and like a bunch of like white producers from California moved to Colombia and created this like weird dystopian South American village of just like all rich white people, and nobody messes with them.
Yeah, just go set up compounds and shit out in the middle of the jungle. It's all white people, probably, except for their guards that they pay pretty good price to keep people off the property. Yeah,
it's like one of the resorts. Like, as long as you stay within these boundaries, you're not going to get beheaded. But if you even think about crossing that bridge over there, you better do it with a suit of armor.
I've never been, but I heard Jamaica's the same way. Like, they got the resort, but you don't go off the resort.
Yeah, I have a lot of family members.
Yeah,
a lot of family members who have been there and said that very thing.
Yeah, unless you got family in town, you don't go into Kingston or somewhere like that. They'll kill you. You know what I mean? You won't come back. And we're talking about for $16 or something. It only got to be like, I'm taking all travelers checks. I'm just taking a 20 into town with me. Now they'll kill you for that too.
When you hear things like that, it always makes me wonder, like, what are the laws there that are preventing these people that will just literally murder you from entering? Like, what's so great? Is there a force field around the resort or something? That's like,
I think it's guards. They got guards. They got armed guards around the resort.
That doesn't sound like a vacation to me.
It don't really, does it? It sounds like you're going to prisons.
Yeah.
There's a fence and there's guards.
It's all inclusive.
And we can't leave.
It's all inclusive though, so you can't beat it.
But you can buy weed from a Rastafarian on the beach. Hey, I don't know. Yeah. I would rather go to Asia than there though. Asia's nice. It's nice.
We have some friends in Japan who we've had on the show a couple of times. They do a paranormal podcast, and they said peanut butter costs like $60 a jar in Japan.
Japan's expensive, man. Japan's very expensive. I didn't spend long in Japan. Japan and South Korea. I've been to Seoul too, and it's too expensive. Because a lot of stuff there is more expensive than here. I mean, there's stuff like in Vietnam and Thailand that's more expensive than here. Like if you want to go get Jim Beam, a bottle of Jim Beam's like $35 or $40. But if you get Hong Tong, which is their whiskey, it's like $3. So, just depends on how you shop. Yeah.
Drinking Hong Tong all weekend.
Yeah. Hey, I like Hong Tong. It's cheap. It tastes cheap, but it'll get you there, baby. It will get you there.
Yeah.
It will get you there.
So, what's the comedy scene in Kentucky like?
Louisville has got a pretty good sized scene. I would compare it with like Nashville and Cincinnati and stuff like that. I'm in Lexington. Our scene's really small. Like I've been one of the ones that helped build it up. We don't have a whole lot. We have a Don't Tell, which is pretty big nationwide, that is in our town, and then we have like 3 show producers. We have 1 mic a week that's every week, and then we have a few that spread out. I host one that's monthly, and a couple other people host once every other week and stuff like that. But we only have one that's consistently every week that you can go hit open mic here. So it's small. It's a small scene.
Yeah, I mean that's relatable. I couldn't pinpoint any singular place where I live where that would even exist. I would have to travel to somewhere to
even find a comedy scene.
Yeah. You know, we have like fire halls or whatnot. Every once in a while, there'll be like a comedy show where it's like the guy that who is like the general manager over at the gas station is doing comedy on his night off or whatever.
Oh yeah,
but you know, like it's the Valentine's Day special. You know, bring your gal, $25, you get dinner and a show or something at the VFW. But beyond that, I'd have to drive to Pittsburgh, I think.
Okay. Then I was just talking about like the local comedy scene, like, you know, that everybody does. We do have a comedy club that's a classic comedy club called Comedy Off Broadway. And then we have a theater called the Opera House that comedy comes through. And then our Rupp Arena, which is where the Kentucky Wildcats play, that's where the big acts come, like Bill Burr, Chappelle, and stuff like that. So we got a lot when you consider professional and then amateur altogether. It's still a small scene comparatively, though, to any medium-sized or bigger city.
No, it's still pretty rad. Like I said, I am easily 50 miles away from anything in the world. So it's rough for me. I drove to Pittsburgh in May, I think it was, and I saw Norton.
Yeah, and I love Norton.
Yeah, I saw him and I hung out with him for a little bit. I had a paid meet and greet or whatever. It's not like we were like, you know, tight or best friends or anything, but it was a pretty cool experience because for me, Norton and the Tough Crowd crew is kind of, they were the guys. You mentioned Patrice earlier, but they were on the forefront of comedy when I was like really starting to get into it, you know, late 90s, early 2000s.
Yeah.
So, you know, between Tough Crowd and Opie and Anthony, like I pretty much spent the last over 20 years, you know, idolizing those guys. So finally getting a chance to go see Norton was pretty incredible.
It was big.
Yeah.
Who's your favorite comedian? I know I was supposed to be interviewing you, but who's your favorite comedian living?
Living comedian?
Yeah.
Man, that one's harder to answer than the dead ones. Man, right now, I mean, it's hard not to say. This might sound like a cheat answer, but like Rich Voss, you know, he's still somebody that I think is like really great. CK, obviously Louis CK is a great one.
One of the best.
Yeah.
One of the best going.
But
I think I'd put Doug Stanhope there. Probably my favorite living.
Yeah, for sure.
He's probably my favorite living. I'm surprised he ain't as big as he don't feel like he's as big as he should be. I know everybody knows his name, but he's not in theaters and stuff like that. I don't know if he wants to be.
He's like one of those comedians that everybody kind of looks up to and knows and like realizes how great he is. But outside of like when they replaced the Hosts on Demand show, that was kind of like his plateau as far as you know, being in everybody's households are. But he's also a dude that seems like he likes to like pound booze like 10 o'clock in the morning and on. So some of that could be I know his podcast is pretty popular.
Yeah. Yeah. He might just stay over in the West too. I don't know if he chooses not to be that. He's also pretty dark to be any kind of mainstream. He's a very dark comedian.
Yeah.
I like that, but it's hard to pull off, man. Like most of my real dark jokes I've dropped and I'll come back to them just because, man, they're tough, man. If it's going into a way inappropriate or dark place, you got to be super, super funny to pull it back out of it.
All right. Well, that's kind of that's my sense of humor. So I always kind of relate to those real blue, real dark stuff.
Yeah.
So what's some of the stuff that you would pull out of your set because of it being too dark?
I've got a story that I've been told never talk about again about I got my first blowy from a girl with Down syndrome. So I just tell the story. Basically, I mean, I punch it up a little bit, but I just tell the story about how it happened and went down and getting caught by her dad afterwards.
Oh
And
shit!
it's audiences don't know how to take it. I think I could end a very long set with it or have it near the end. Like if I do 45 minutes or something, I could probably end with it, but it needs to be punched up better before really like throwing it in there because it's so hard. People look at you different after you tell them that story. You know what I mean? They're not. There's some people just judging. It's not funny to them. They're like, "You," and I was only 11. I tell that part in it, but they don't care.
Yeah, well, I mean, I certainly judge you less knowing that you're 11 in that story.
You
Right?
know what I mean? You know what I mean? I don't even add this part in, but I was probably molested. I don't know how old she was. I have no. She could have been 16. She could have been 38. I have no clue. She was older than me, though. That's all I know about it. Well, my older cousins got me in the situation. I wingman for him. Didn't know what I was getting myself into, you know. Whole debacle after that. Truth or dare. They dared her to unzip my pants with her teeth, and I don't wear drawers. So when she did, my little thing popped out and landed right on her lip. And she latched onto my little worm like a baby bird ain't been fed in a week, y'all.
You were coerced into this situation.
What am I to do? Here. What am I to do, man?
Wow. So not only with a girl with Down syndrome, and you're only 11, but you're sitting there in a group of people who have dared you to be in this situation, who are witnessing it happen.
Yeah.
That's normal, right?
Yeah, you know, family stuff, man. You know, family memories, the way I consider them.
Family was the down person your cousin?
No, my cousin. I had a male cousin, and the little girl that ended up my winning in her mouth had a sister that was real hot, and they hooked up while I got blown by her sister.
To this day, your cousin owes you still.
Oh man, he owes me for the rest of his life, dude. The rest of his living days. If I call him up and say, "Hey, cuz, I need you," he better be here. He lives in Chicago, and he better be on his way.
You catch a red eye and get your ass to Kentucky.
The next words I better hear out of his mouth, I'll go tell the wife. Bring it on down. But that's one of the ones I pulled out. I've pulled a couple out. About a year in, I'm 2 years in now. About a year in, I got kicked out of a club for being racist. And none of my jokes were racist, but they took it the wrong way. They were like 23 years old, and it was like a little vampire club. And apparently you can't say you got black friends or it's racist. I don't know how I was supposed to describe them.
That is something that obviously has kind of plagued comedy for a while now.
Yeah, a little bit. There's certain places that are sensitive, but you can kind of recognize them after you can't when you get first started, but after you've been around the block a little bit, you can kind of look around the crowd and be like, probably shouldn't tell those jokes tonight because they're just going. I mean, like it ain't a self-centering thing, and that I usually just don't do those type of rooms unless it's paying. But it's more of I want to please the crowd. I don't want to leave a crowd not having a good time. So I've got jokes for different rooms.
Yeah, I got you. I guess that's probably the smartest way to go about it. Yeah, it would be kind of a shame if you walked into that kind of crowd and only had 20 minutes of your friends are black material.
Yeah. So, that's another mistake too. If you've got any kind of racial material that deals with like other races, just don't do it in an all white room. They're gonna feel awkward, or they're gonna think you're racist. That's what it comes to. There's like 5 black people in the room, and I tried to appease to them instead. I knew I didn't have anything in common with the 23-year-old vampires, so I try to connect with the black people. And I wasn't even done telling my joke, and somebody in the crowd yelled out. They said, "Change the subject," and I said, "Change the subject, really?" And I was about to go off on him, and the host who had brought me out and paid me walked by, and he said, yeah, change the subject. And I was like, all right, I'm out, y'all. And just bounced. And the black people in the room, there's only like 4 of them, came downstairs with me, smoked a blunt with me, asked me to tell them the rest of my jokes. So I told them the next joke, the end of that joke, and the next joke, and had them laughing with me. While the white kids had come downstairs too and was grouped up by themselves, giving me the side eye, still for being racist. While I'm the only one even fucking with the black folk. I don't even know. It was the weirdest shit, bro. It was the weirdest shit ever.
I mean, it's like that weird sensitivity that's existed. I don't even know how to pinpoint how it started, because it's not like, I feel like we're not that old. I'm still in my 30s, and I certainly am not like that. And
yeah, but they're old enough that like not the newest generation, but the one in between like 20 and us. I think it's just been the push-pull of politics, man. Like one side goes farther right, the other side goes farther left. And I think so each of those sides have got pushed into retardation. they're just
yeah.
They're gone, man. But this new generation's raw, man. The 20s and downs, they don't care what they say to each other, bro. They are wild. They say stuff that me and you'd be like, no, that's offensive. I'm not saying that.
Yeah.
Like, they are wild, dude. They went the complete opposite direction. It's just that push and pull. I think it's all politics.
Yeah. It's good though too, because we are seeing now that like cancel culture is kind of slowly not dying, but not as extreme. People aren't being fired for the stupidest shit in the world because somebody on Twitter said that they were upset. So I can appreciate that younger generation. My youngest brother, he's 15 years younger than me. So he's kind of like, he's right in between that like real sensitive and the real young one. And the amount of stuff that I've heard him say and seen him and his friends do, like, is like, it's vile. Like, it's just shockingly vile what those kids do. So I'm glad things kind of are moving back in a good direction.
I think almost every bit of the sensitive stuff is virtue signaling anyways. I've never met anybody that their feelings was truly hurt. Like if you really start talking to them, say like, did it really hurt your feelings? And they'll be like, nah, I just wanted to say that I was pissed off about it because it's wrong. You know what I mean? Like I get some of it. You know what I mean? That if somebody's out here just being racist, yeah, that person should be told to, shut the hell up, man. You can't be saying that shit to these people. That's crazy. That should be checked. But if you should never be pissed off when somebody's telling a joke. Never, never. If they're trying to make a crowd laugh and you get pissed off, the problem's you. It's you. It's not them. Because any comedian can miss a joke, especially if it's brand new. I've told some stuff because I told that line a lot of what's appropriate and what's definitely not appropriate. And I've went over it, like trying to figure the joke out. But either I'm going to make it back across the line by working it out, or I'm going to be like, this ain't never going to work. And I'll come back to it later.
Yeah, and that's what the club scene's meant for. Like, you're meant to be able to go up and work through your jokes and see what works and what doesn't. So when you have like all of these kids who are there when in between classes because their college brains are so warped that they're inside of a comedy club filming you and looking for a reason to
be pissed
flame
off.
you on the internet, like how are you supposed to figure out how to like?
You can't. That's the weird thing about comedy too. You can't figure it out without doing it. You can sit and write. I've seen people do it, man. They'll try to write for a year to make it perfect, and it's not going to be perfect when you go up and do it. There's no way, because you don't know what's funny. You might be a funny person, but when it comes to the line coming out of your mouth, you do not know if it's going to be funny or not until that crowd laughs at it or sits there and looks at you like, and like So that's when you know with comedy.
I was like, oh yeah, well that was the punchline, and nobody's they're bored and I suck. Like that's what's kept me from trying. It's one of the reasons that I decided to kind of start doing a like a stand-up theme version of our show is because like I've always loved stand-up. As far back as I can remember, like the first time I saw Sam Kinison on TV in a commercial for a special of his. It wasn't even actually his full-on special. It was an advertisement that used to play for like a VHS tape that you could order because I didn't have cable TV or anything. So I just remember like just these Sam Kinison ads would run, and I just was always like, wow, okay, that's interesting. What's that? And then it turns out George Carlin, like the
Oh, that's another
conductor,
great.
he's that my introduction to Carlin was the conductor on the Thomas the Train Show, So,
Yeah.
as I get just a little bit older and I realize, what he
What he
actually
did.
is,
Yeah.
like, wow. And, and then of course there in the 90s, when I'm growing up, that's when stand-up kind of had that next boom after it had slowed down towards the end of the 80s,
Yeah.
so the late 90s we saw like like Mitch Hedberg or Dane Cook blow up, and it's fun to shit on Dane Cook from time to time because of how mainstream he got.
His first special was a classic, though.
Right.
Hands down, that was one of the probably top 20 comedy albums.
Yeah, and he was the first one to use social media and build his fan base on the internet like overnight on MySpace. So a lot of the things that he did were revolutionary, especially now when we're living in this world where it seems like every comedian, comedy used to be like this idea where I'm not going to have a day job. I'm going to do what I want to do with my life. I'm going to go do comedy. I'm not going to have to get up in the morning. I'm not going to have to worry about any of this stuff. Now you're doing podcasts, you're making content, you're editing your reels,
shorts, Facebook reels, TikToks. Yeah, there's so much to it.
Like that's kind of defeating the purpose of comedy itself, because now you're just inundated with all this work just so that you can go do stand-up.
Yeah, you get a lot of bullshit comedians out of that too. I probably shouldn't say that on every podcast I go on, but there's a lot of TikTok comedians.
Yeah.
And they get a lot of spots at the club. And they are horrible comedians. They are so bad. It don't matter who's opening for them. It can be the worst comedian in your city, and they're gonna blow them off the stage. You know what I mean? Like they don't know how to act in front of an audience. They're good at making little short things, but they don't know how to act in front of an audience. But if you're a comedian, get your numbers up and get there yourself. Because that's what they look at. The social media numbers a whole lot to book at a club. So
yeah, no, that's really unfortunate too. That's kind of how it works now.
It's a business, though. It's always going to be
Right.
asses in the seats, Everyone who fill that comedy club up, that's who's getting booked.
Right.
Makes
Yeah.
sense from that standpoint. Most comedy club owners aren't comedians, so they're business people.
Yeah. But the pressure of I don't know if it's the pressure or not, but kind of I have never figured out how to take that next step from being I'm super into this, and I have been super into this my whole life, and I do write. Yeah. But I've never been able to sit down and like concretely come up with like, okay, so this is what I'm gonna go say in front of this crowd. So like I'm in that whatever middle stage that is the thing that's always kind of prevented me from going to that next level. You had said that you you're like always writing notes down and stuff.
Yeah. Anytime I'm in a conversation with people and I think I say something funny, like you'll just think of something because you're talking and something will play off something else and it makes everybody laugh. I'll walk away and take a voice note or actual type note of that subject. And then I'll come back to it when I sit down to write. I sit down to write every day. So at least 15 minutes.
I'm the same way. I actually found an old document. I was going through this old hard drive I have sitting here, and I found a document on there that's like 17 pages of just notes I took that, I memorized something that I just was said between me and my friends. And I was like, that could work. Yeah. And so I found 17 pages of these notes that are literally 20 years old, like a memory that I had completely forgotten about, where my friend was basically explaining like how you could make a hamster sexually attracted to you.
That's a good premise.
Yeah. There's all this science that's in like this is how like a hamster when it's in heat is going to want to actually have sex with a human if it's the caretaker, because it like, and I couldn't my mouth dropped because I was like I took all of these notes and I've never done a single thing with them. Like it made me sad a little bit that I don't know, wasting potential or wasting material just sitting there on a hard drive.
Yeah, you can do it one of two ways. You could either take those premises where you just got like the line and go up on stage and just run off as many things about that as you can and do it live. Or like the way I do stuff, I write my stuff out sometimes completely in like essay form about something in my life, and then it'll work its way down into a more jokey form after 2 or 3
Yeah.
rewrites. I'm a writer. I write everything. Like my stuff for the first time I go up on stage and do it is almost one-to-one to what I wrote. But that's when it starts changing, because while I'm doing the material, I listen to the audience, and where they laugh, I'm like, okay, I got to keep that. And then if I go 2 or 3 sentences without a laugh, I'm like, all right, that's going to need to be shortened up, or I'm going to have to put a funny word in there or a phrase or something funny there and work it that way, because you really want you want a lot of laughs a minute to be killing. Like I've only killed like 3 times, and my best one I've got on tape, and I got 55 laughs in 5 minutes. So it's like burning their heads up, you know what I mean? I'm real proud of that one. So you that's how you get like standing ovations and stuff, when you can make them laugh throughout the whole time you're on stage. That's, you got something then.
Yeah. So you're 2 years into this. Are you like at a point that is this like a viable career for you at this point?
Not even close, bro.
No.
Yeah, I've got a full-time job that I do that keeps me up, but luckily my job's remote. I do everything off a laptop, so I can travel around and get myself known more out there. I can get some decent sized shows in some cities, and then every bigger comedian that's like middle size and up that I've met in my journey, they've all tell me move, move out of Lexington is like what I need to do. I need to just move.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you're remote, man, is there anything stopping you? You have like family or something you can't leave?
Just I'm not married or anything like that, but all my immediate family's close, and my people's getting older, and I got a mortgage. That's that's another thing that kind of keeps me grounded to some extent. I'm working on it though. I'm saving some money back and trying to make a move soonish, 3-6 months, something like that. So just to get to a bigger city and do it, because I keep getting told I would develop better too if you can go up. Like out of my whole 2 years, the most I grew was my week in New York, because we did like 32 mics in 6 days, I think. So it was just, and we had shows in between them and stuff too, and we just hitting as much as we could. And that's the most sharp. That's the biggest leap my comedy took forward, is that just 1 week in New York.
Okay.
So just imagining like if I was in a bigger comedy city and could do that for
like every
6
day.
months, yeah, where would my comedy be?
Yeah, right. Where did you when you were in New York, were you opening, featuring, hosting?
It was opening shows. I was one of the openers. A lot of the shows in New York's a little bit bigger than ones here. They'll have like 7 or 8 comedians on those shows anyways, and they were all one of the openings. I didn't feature anything. I didn't start featuring until I got back from New York. Like my comedy took a huge jump forward from just that week. Like my act outs, I don't know if you've ever heard that on thing, but just like acting stuff out on stage got bigger and better while I was up there. I just learned a couple of little like performance techniques by working with those comedians that really like took my comedy from like middle-ish to I started getting huge applauses and stuff instead of just laughs.
Yeah, it's kind of like the whole presentation.
Yeah, that's came together more. Yeah, I can still go a little bit further with that. Like the being big on stage is a linchpin. You can be as funny as you want, and if you're real reserved, I'm not even saying like there's some people that have like a smaller persona on stage, but they're not reserved at all. I don't know how to explain that, but it's being more believing in it, I guess, is the main thing. Like believing that you're funny. You when you start believing and knowing that you're funny when you go up, that's when you start getting better.
I guess kind of to the point that you said, like 2 people that came to mind who are completely different from each other is, like as not being very big on stage is Jim Gaffigan and he just kind of stands there and talks about hot pockets and
but he's still fearless. I guess is the better word for it. He's like absolutely fearless on that mic.
Right, yeah. And then Big J Okerson is another one that does so much. He literally just sits on a stool for the entire set, and he commands that stage. Like that's where you're at when you're watching it. It's like right there. Like the fact that he's not moving around a lot or anything or being big.
Yeah, it's just knowing when you know you're funny, when you know, like, no matter what, I can go out here and make these people laugh. Then you've got it. Then I believe.
Yeah. What's your stance on crowd work? Because we had mentioned earlier with the TikTok comedians, it seems to be all anybody like. People just mine for content with crowd work, and a lot of people seem to think that that's what comedy is these days. It's just crowd work, but I'm pretty sure you're seeing the first 10 minutes of somebody's set most of the time where they let everybody know we're doing crowd work, but they don't show that part.
Yeah.
So like, are crowds more ruckus? Is there a lot of interrupting, or people who assume that that's what's happening when you're on stage?
I don't see it that much. I think the comedians and the host and stuff set the tone for the show, and if it's not a big thing, then usually crowds are pretty good about not yelling out. Plus, if they yell out, they get roasted. You know what I mean? Like that. I haven't seen a crowd member be able to hang with the comedian yet. And then if they keep going, they get kicked out. So it's a bad idea all the way around. But I have no stance on it, man. I think it is good for some comedians' social media presence. I'm still working on crowd work. I'm about 60-40. 60% of the time I'm funny with crowd work. 40% of the time I offend somebody. So I'm still working on it. I've seen it go south, though. When I was in New York, I did a show. It had like 6 other people on it. And every one of them did crowd work. But none of them watched the other one's sets. So there was there was like 3 people asked the same 2 Indian people the same question, so that by the 3rd time the crowd was answering, and the comedian was like, I guess y'all have heard this one before, and it was awkward, man. It was awkward.
Yeah.
And I stood out on that show huge too, because I just went up there and did like 10 minutes of solid lockdown material. So I stood out above everybody because I was different from everybody, because they did like 8 minutes of crowd work and like 1 joke. Every one of them did, and I went up there and did material, and I really stood out against them because of that.
Yeah. Earlier tonight, my wife and I, we watched the new Matt Rife crowd work special. She's really into him. He's, for me, one of those TikTok guys where I'm like, he's good at crowd work, but what else does he have to offer? Like, I get it. Like, you get a lady boner watching him, we'll watch it. It's fine. But like, I mean, I'd rather put something else on. But
I wasn't huge on his special either. It was whatever, man. It just it didn't feel fresh to me, really. You know what I mean? Like, there was nothing there where I was like, wow, that was the most clever joke ever or anything like that. It was kind of standard, if it makes sense.
Yeah, and then again, for a lot of what he puts on the internet, it's like it's constant like sex innuendo. Between him and chicks, and then like this new special. And that's all it was on this special, was just more of that in the crowd. So I mean, it played, it did its thing. She enjoyed it. It's fine, it's whatever. But like the whole time I'm watching it, I'm like, man,
I'm not even a sexy man, and I'm on stage doing hip thrusts, so I don't blame the man a bit. I do not blame him. Do your thing, Rife. Get that money, player.
Yeah.
I appreciate it all. That's another thing. I don't hate any comedy. I don't say any comedies. I never say a comedian is not funny, because I don't believe that. I think some comedians don't work hard enough, but I'd never say they're not funny. Because you never know, man. Like, just because it's not funny to you, like there's 100 Netflix comedians I can name right now that can sell out arenas and theaters that I don't think that's funny, but apparently they're funny to somebody.
Right. Yeah, like that's a perfect example though. Like when I watched the Rife special with my wife, I took her to see Norton, and she was like, I'm glad you enjoyed it. Like, she was miserable there. And like I'm thinking, like, this is like one of like the top 5 goats, of all time. And so hey, you want to watch Matt Rife make sex jokes. That's it. It's subjective. So
Yeah, it's very
That's
subjective.
one of the things I love about it. Again, if I put on like Stephen Wright or something that like I think is literal actual human genius,
Yeah, I do too.
she would not even. I don't think she would last 5 minutes with Stephen Wright set.
You're such a better person than me. I'll be judging people on some of their tastes, man. Like I was hooking up with this girl for a little while, and one night I asked her if I could bring a movie over, and we watch a movie, and she said yeah, and I took over Shaun of the Dead, and we watched
Okay.
it, and she didn't think it was funny, dude. So I banged her one last time and never called her again, dude. I was like, "There's no way it's gonna work out if you don't think Shaun of the Dead's funny."
Yeah, no, man. I let the comedy side of things slide because in other aspects, she'll watch all of the dumb horror movies that I ever want to watch.
Oh yeah,
So
and she watches them with you, so that's that's another thing too. You know what I mean? Sometimes.
yeah, I made her go watch Cuckoo yesterday, which I don't know if you're familiar with it or not, but
I'm not.
it's this new horror movie that came out. It's from this company called Neon. They're basically like the new A24 with Vibe
Okay.
horror and stuff. It like December they put not December around Easter they put out this movie with Sydney Sweeney, and she played a nun, basically had her like tits out the whole time, and it was like a nunsploitation movie from the 70s, but it was like a modern 2024 movie, and they released it on Easter, which blew my mind. So I wanted to see this Cuckoo movie, which was batshit nuts. It was like an old Italian movie where everything's just kind of off the wall bonkers, and the whole time, like even I was like, "What the fuck are we watching right now?" But she went and she watched it. She was a good sport about it. So
I've watched some of those. There's a new one. Stephen King was just raving about. If you like scary movies, called Strange Darling, and
okay,
everybody's raving about that one, man. I think it's gonna be decent. It's like a thriller or something.
yeah, I'll have to look into that. Yeah, that's what I do when I'm not doing this stuff. It's like horror movie stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm a huge horror movie buff too, man. I've probably watched maybe not all of them, man, but most of them. I watched the bad ones, the good ones. I love horror movies.
yeah. Are you familiar with Street Trash by chance?
That sounds familiar. Let me pull up a picture of it. Street Trash.
Came out in the mid '80s, and one of the first shows that I did that was outside of our original paranormal stuff was I interviewed Frank Farrell from Street Trash, and he's one of the guys who made that movie, and that kind of
This
set me on.
looks familiar, man, but it's not like
It's incredible. I think you'd love it. It's
I'm gonna
on Tubi right now, like for
okay.
free, and it looks the transfer is amazing even on Tubi.
It's gonna be the next horror movie I boot up, and I'll tell you if I've watched it or not after that.
Oh,
I'll
yeah,
have watched
for
it
sure.
anyway, but yeah, I'll tell you if I've watched it or not. But I know a lot of the obscure ones, man. Like you ever watch Dead Birds?
Dead Birds. That I have not seen it. I actually might have
That's
to
a
look
weird
it
one
up.
that's really good. Dog Soldiers is the best werewolf movie ever made.
Oh, Dog Soldier is for sure the best movie by a long shot. And then also A Hill That I'll Die On, American Werewolf in Paris.
Oh, both of them. I like Paris and London. They're both great.
Are you the only other human I've ever heard say that Paris was good?
I like them both. I thought they were both great, man. I like them both.
Yeah.
That was young horror movies though, man. I was 10. You know what I mean? Like I love all those, man, that I watched when I was real young. Ghoulies, Chud, all those old movies, man. I loved them. I even like Critters. Critters was amazing, dude. The first few.
I have the box set.
Yeah, I love all that old stuff, man. Some of it's a little too weird for me, like Human Centipede and crap like that. I still watch it, but that's weird.
Anytime I ever hear somebody put the Human Centipede over, I always tell them go watch a Serbian film and come back to me.
Oh yeah, that's a messed up one. Yeah. I've seen that one too.
Yeah,
I've seen that one too. Frontiers is another one that's really messed up.
Yeah.
There's several of those foreign ones that are just absolutely jacked up, dude. There's some weird people over in them Czechoslovakian countries and stuff, man.
Yeah, that's the kind of stuff I don't even try to watch with my wife because
no, you're not going to understand.
I did 5 Matt Rife specials to make up for the fact that I made her watch the Serbian film.
Yeah, she's going to come in and think differently about you. There's some people that think differently about you over something like Hannibal Holocaust, man, but there's way worse. There's way worse out there.
Yeah, Cannibal Holocaust is like elementary compared to a lot of
I
stuff.
still
That's
think
like,
that stuff was real though. As long back as that was, and how good those special effects was, I almost believe they killed people for that movie.
yeah, yeah, man, I love that movie. I'm waiting for the 4K to come out in America. But we just hit an hour.
Yes, sir.
And we always kind of like to end it at that. That way, we don't get boring or contrived and make you hate us. And generally speaking, I kind of like, if somebody wants to talk to me for 4 hours, I'd like to get 4 episodes out of it. So
Right, I feel you.
This is what we always do. JC has been absent this whole time, having technical issues. This is only like the second time I've ever done one completely by myself. I hope I didn't bore you.
It happens, man. I thought it was good. I had fun.
Yeah. I always like the guests to promote your stuff, any links you have, any dates coming up, anything that you can, get out to anybody listening right now.
Listen, I just Google me, Lyle, y'all. It's Lyle, y'all. LYLEYALL, and you'll find my social media. I'm the big dumb white guy.
Yeah, I almost put that because I saw I saw your Facebook was. I almost had that as our.
I was going by Big Dumb Chris. It's a great stage name, man. But I've had like 20 veteran comedians say, "Just use your real name," and it was Chris Elliott. So I was like, "Hey, Lyle, y'all, make it easy."
Right. Yeah, man. I appreciate you coming on. This was fun.
Yeah, man. Thank you for having me.
All right. So everybody listening, definitely, hey, Google it and check him out. He's a cool guy. He took some time to talk to us, and let him know, show him some love from the watchers. I'm gonna go ahead and hit our outro. You are under no rule here. If you want to take off, you're completely able to. Once the outro is done, I'll stop recording either way. But thank you for coming, and yeah, once more before I go, definitely check him out.
The preceding program has been brought to you by the Watchers Podcast Network. If you enjoyed the show, please like, subscribe, and share with your friends to help grow our network. Check us out on all social media platforms, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. And until next time, thanks for your support.